So we go to Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection. So we read about Lord's Supper. Luke chapter 22, verse 1 to 38. Jesus sent two of his disciples, that is Peter and John, to go to the city and prepare a room for the Passover meal. The disciples found the room that was already reserved and prepared for them. Jesus told them about his desire to eat the Passover meal with them for the last time before his suffering. When the time came, Jesus took the cup of wine, gave thanks, and passed it around for the disciples to drink, saying that it is his blood. Likewise, he took the bread, gave thanks, broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying that it was his body. He asked them to continue with the practice in his memory. So Jesus told the disciples that the one who was going to betray him was seated at the table. The disciples were surprised, and they started asking among themselves who this could be. The disciples also argued about who among them was the greatest. Jesus replied that true greatness for a disciple was in serving and being humble. He gave them the example of service by washing their feet. Jesus predicted that Simon Peter would deny him 3 times. He then prayed for Peter to have faith so that he would lead the other disciples. He warned the disciples about temptations they would encounter. So if you want to remember the whole narration of the Lord's Supper, the Last Supper, if you want to describe, you just talk about, you have to mention Peter and John when he sent them. And then when you are mentioning about the Last Supper, you have to talk about the wine, and then you talk about the what? The bread. And then you talk about him saying that what? One of them is going to do what? To betray. But before you talk about the betrayals, you are supposed to talk about the practice. They should practice it. Yes. They should continue practicing it in his memory. And then after you talk about now Judas, which he did not mention, he says someone is going to betray him. Then you talk about the question about his greatness. Yes, they talked about his greatness. So he said those who are serving and humble are the ones who are great. So he cleaned their feet. And then you talk about what? The last thing is about who? Simon Peter doing what? Denying him.